Hey beautiful people! Welcome to Lunar Living. Today I have a really special guest with me, my friend Anna with the luscious hair. She is a really good friend of mine, and we were thinking, because we're both experienced traveler, and it would be interesting to share about our experiences traveling solo and with people. And we both have been also in more underdeveloped countries, and I think it's always interesting to know what it is like. And just to give a little bit of feedback, I'm German and she's American, and yeah. So how is your experience with traveling?
So my experience with traveling is my mom is from England, and both of my parents really enjoyed traveling growing up, so I was really lucky to kind of be exposed to it through them. But my first experience solo traveling, I actually came to London, where we are now, for a design project, and it was a month-long project, but I had a week of extra time at the end. And some colleagues I was working with on the project, they were like, you should go to Croatia, it's so beautiful. And so I went there alone and just had an amazing experience, and it was really empowering. I met a lot of incredible people, and I kind of got hooked after that. I started to study abroad, or I did 3 months of study abroad in Barcelona, and then I switched to finish my degree online so that I could just keep traveling. And then I went throughout Europe, and then to Central and South America, and then just to Thailand for a little bit. And now I'm back here with Ronnie.
Yes!
Watching her create this incredible project.
Thank you. Yeah. So my experience with traveling is, I think I did my first solo travel with 17, just a really short trip to Scotland, but it was so good for me because I was really also, scared of this, because I think as a woman you always feel like, oh my gosh, you're gonna get like raped or beaten up, or all this kind of stuff, or just that people are maybe exploiting you and you cannot set up your boundaries. But yeah, it was a really good experience for me. Or also, I think I was a lot afraid of being alone. Yeah. That's a big thing for people. They always think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be alone.
What am I going to do? Can I go eat by myself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And yeah, that was really nice in Scotland. And then I went to Thailand alone, and to Vietnam, exactly.
Smart.
And then I also went to India, but with my boyfriend. And yeah, traveling alone, the funny thing is you're basically never alone.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the biggest thing. Because you are in hostels, you meet people, and I never spent like a single moment. I mean, sometimes, okay, there people are not like your favorite people, but usually you find always someone. And especially for me, the biggest thing is to have someone to eat with. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point. And I think a really powerful experience of traveling is kind of learning to enjoy your own company. I think that was a really good thing for me, because I think before I was forced to spend that much time on my own, and like you said, you always meet people in the hostels. There's always somebody to do something with if you really want to. But I think it also taught me to just force myself to go sit down in a restaurant alone. And after doing that a lot of times where I felt uncomfortable, it started to become comfortable. And I think that's a really cool experience, to just keep putting yourself outside your comfort zone and realizing that's where you learn the most and develop a much stronger relationship with yourself, and just, it's pretty cool. It's pretty empowering.
I really like it. She always says, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and I think this is such a great life motto, because yeah, this is like the zone where you really experience things. If you always just do things that you're comfortable, you basically never do anything new, right? Yeah. And of course, sometimes these things are really uncomfortable and you don't like them, but sometimes you do uncomfortable things and you're just like in love with it, Like, for example, before I traveled to India, and also before I traveled to Thailand alone, I was shit scared. For 2 days before, I was like, oh my gosh, I should cancel my flight. I was freaking out, really, because of course, you are scared, but doing it after 2 days in each country, I was so comfortable, and I was so happy that I did it. And I think it just this fear doesn't justify just being stuck in life and just not doing anything. And I think that brings us also to another point, right? Like, we were talking often about, especially American culture, that is so fear-based.
Yeah, and I think I was just looking up before we started this.
Yeah.
It's I think it's 36% of U.S. citizens have passports, and compared to something like 75% of UK citizens, which I think is a huge testament to, well, I think it also has a lot to do, we're generally a culture of sensationalism and fear-based propaganda. And I know for me, before traveling, had kind of not a hopeless view of the world, but I was looking a lot into like systemic racism and just how the United States is almost constantly at war, and just the economic inequality. And I was kind of feeling like, oh, the world is just a fucked up, like, can I say that?
Yes, of course. Authenticity is my motto. You can swear. This is not American TV.
Yeah, but I kind of had like an outlook that the world is a fucked up place. And so when I went to go travel, I think I went on a school trip to El Salvador, and through American media I'd heard, oh, it's one of the most violent, dangerous places on earth, like you shouldn't go.
Yeah.
And so, like you were saying, the first few nights before I went, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I should not go, maybe I should get rid of my ticket or tell them I can't go. But I remember going to the airport with my mom, and I was like freaking out on the way there.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I got through security, I was like, well, no turning back. But once I got there, it was a beautiful experience. Like, I think that was one of the biggest, it totally shifted my entire perspective on the world and on life, because throughout the entire time I met so many beautiful people, and I'd never experienced that much generosity. And just to see the projects they were working on, we did a project with kids who were kind of dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder from gang-related violence. And I think that was also really powerful, because I think I learned way more from them than I was able to give to them, and it just shifted my entire perspective and realized there's incredible things happening in every part of the world, and there's amazing people everywhere you go. Just like anywhere, there's good and bad everywhere. I feel unsafe in the US, and I also feel safe in certain places. And
Yes.
yeah, it depends on where you are. And
Exactly. That is so true. I think it is so important that you always, but everywhere you are, you have to smart, you have to be observant of your environment, and you have to really go with your gut. I think this is the best tip I can give anyone. Really go with your gut, but everywhere. And I always tell this funny story. So I have a friend from South Africa. She grew up in Johannesburg, in the township there. And she got robbed in Europe. I think it was in the Netherlands, And like, I have so many stories of like African citizens where everyone thinks, oh, the African continent is so bad. And then they go to Europe and get robbed. It's just ridiculous. And so, what we are saying is that always keep your eyes open, but also have trust in people and know that, people are incredibly generous, especially when they are poor often. Of course, some of them also want to rip you off, but I think always having a more loving perspective towards people and more trust has always helped me so much. And of course, be clear with your boundaries. If you don't want something, immediately say it. But also, expect that people just also want to be friendly. Like, that is very much like a reality.
Yeah, and I think that's such a good point too, is be aware, but it's like anywhere, because I was talking to you about this. I think going back home to the US is huge, and I know everyone has their own unique experience, but I feel less safe there than I did in a lot of the places I've been. And I think, like you were saying, it's amazing how often people will step in to help you. Like, I think of times where I just got on the wrong bus and wound up in some places where I remember going to a city in Colombia, and I took a taxi to the wrong part of the city. I typed in the wrong address, and a woman came out, and she was like, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be in this part of the town. Like, come into my house. And I was like, but she was so kind. She gave me food, and she waited for her dad to get home, and then he gave me a motorbike ride back to the hostel where I was supposed to be. And so just situations like that where my own stupidity got me there, but then I was lucky, and incredible people were there to help, just be generous, just because they could. And I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it's so powerful to experience those kinds of things.
It is, for sure. And I know so many travelers who had the same experiences or that they are stranded somewhere, and then people that obviously have not much at all, they just overwhelm them with like, eat my food, like take my clothes, you know, because in a lot of countries this hospitality is such an important value to people. I think often more than it is like maybe in Western countries. So, yeah, and yeah, I think that was a good, nice impression of our travel videos. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Super
I'm
cool.
honored to be here with you.
Yeah. If you have any questions or if you'd like us to explain more, just leave it in the comments below. And yeah, we really encourage you, like, try new things, go traveling, take a friend, you know, if you're insecure, but really trust your gut and don't let yourself hold back by fear, because that would be very, very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's such a powerful opportunity to break down assumptions and just become more of a global citizen and realize you're interconnected to everyone and everything. We're all part of the same world.
The perfect ending. Okay, we wish you all the best.
Yes. Mwah.
Bye.
Lovely day. Ciao.